Don't stress, live life one day at a time. Don't drink or drug and you'll be fine.
Welcome back to Staying Sober with Papa Joey. Today we're going to continue on with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My take of the 12 steps, we're going to do 3 steps today, 5, 6, and 7. So we're going to begin with step number 5. Admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove these defective characters. And number 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. So let's begin with step number 5, admit it to God. Well, there's that word again, God. It doesn't say higher power, it says God. And it is the God of the Bible that they're referring to. Just saying. You can say higher power, you can say whatever you want, but that's what they meant, the God of the Bible. Now, I probably would have worded this step a little differently. I probably would have said we admit to ourselves and then to God. And then maybe to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, because we really can't go to God unless we actually knew what we were going to go to Him for and explain to Him, what we did, which secret He already knows. The second part of this, admitting to another human being. I'm not a big fan of that. I've said that before. I didn't trust a lot of people in AA to give out my dirty laundry, so I didn't do it. Okay, matter of fact, I told you I didn't do any of these steps with a sponsor. I did them on my own, the way I saw fit for me. And this is interesting, and I'm going to tell you about this. I was in a meeting one time, and a woman chaired the meeting. What that means is every time there's a meeting, somebody actually runs the meeting. It's whoever is there that wants to do it. As long as they got a little bit of sobriety, that's pretty cool. Because you have some readings you have to do, and then you open it up for discussion. But before you open it up for discussion, the person who is chairing the meeting usually shares. Well, this woman who had been sober for about 1.5 years, very nice woman, started to talk about that she did her 4th and 5th step recently, and her sponsor told her she needed to do them over again because she didn't do them right. And this woman was devastated. She was hurt. She thought she did everything right, but it bothered her. So much so when she was sharing about it, she started to tear up. Well, after she was done, of course, she opened up the discussion, and a lot of the people in the room raised their hand. And mostly you heard people say, well, the sponsors, they've been sober for some time, and you've got to trust your sponsor. And maybe they were a little harsh on you, or maybe she was a little harsh on you, but, just take your time, work through them again. And this woman kept on looking at me because I know she wanted to know what I thought about it, because I was pretty open in that meeting on a lot of topics. So I eventually raised my hand after a few people talked. And I told her, I said, I've known you for 1.5 years. I remember when you first came in, and I see you now. You're like awesome. You're always happy. You're always willing to help people. And I said, in regards to this 4th and 5th step in your sponsor, the only suggestion I have for you is to get rid of your sponsor. And the whole room was like a gasp. How dare you? I said, the main reason you're here is to not drink and to keep your sobriety. That sponsor, by saying that, has messed you up a little. I can tell the frustration in your face and the tears in your eyes. So that's not a person you want to be around, in my opinion. Now, I didn't know if her sponsor was actually in the room or not. And to be honest with you, I didn't care. Because all I saw was somebody who was being judged by another person in AA because they didn't follow the steps the way that certain person wanted them to do it. Now, I didn't know what she left out, or I don't know the whole story about it. All I knew was that person was hurting. So therefore, I said, get rid of your sponsor. And the woman did that. She told me a couple days later that she just took my advice and thanked her sponsor, but that it wasn't working out. And I talked with her a little bit more about, how I went through the steps, and it worked for me. Not everybody goes through these steps with a sponsor, and I'm going to tell you this too. Many of them stayed sober. And the reason they stayed sober because they figured it out. Don't drink or use no matter what, and no matter what means no matter what. So you got to be careful. As I said before, if you're going to talk with somebody else or have somebody come in and assist you with doing these 12 steps. Normally, I don't think anybody would have anyone assist them going through the 12 steps unless they were in AA. But if you're just listening to my podcast and you're curious about the 12 steps, there's nothing to stop you from looking at them and taking something that you like from it and just leaving the rest. So it's no big deal. Doing these steps is no big deal. Sometimes the people make it a big deal. Because my opinion of these steps where, they want us to get down to that nitty gritty of why we drank and, what was motivating us to continue drinking. And of course, they wanted to bring the spirituality part in. And towards the end, they want us to help other people and all this. But I didn't care why I drank. So for me, all I did was focus on why I don't drink. And I have a whole list of reasons why I don't. So that's what I've always focused on. Trying to, peel an onion and get to the core of the problem. I always say, what happens if you don't get to that core? What happens if you don't find the reason that's acceptable for you to blame for your drinking or your drugging? What do you do at that point? So I learned early on, I learned from my mistakes, but I knew that no matter what, this guy can't drink alcohol. And if I chose to drink it, then it's all on me, have nobody to blame, and I'll suffer the consequences that come my way because of my drinking. So again, be very careful. If you're in AA or if you're going to AA, and I'm not bashing AA, just be careful who, maybe you partner up with to do the steps or even to talk about these steps. So now if we go to, we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Now, defect of character, that's basically like character traits. If you're insecure, if you're a liar, if you're greedy, things like that. Now, is God going to remove those defects of character from you? No. When there'd be a step meeting in the room and they would do step number 6, I always would say, what happens if God says, no, he's not going to remove those defects of character? Then what? I think the way I approach this is we're asking God to remove this defect of character. So let's say your defect of character is you're a liar. Well, you have to acknowledge that you're a liar or that you lie all the time. And it's up to you to correct it. God's not going to prevent you from lying. I think what will prevent you from lying is, once again, our conscience kicks in and it tells us, don't do that, don't say that, don't say that. And then it's up to us to not say it or to give in and lie once again. But there's no way God's going to remove that defect of character. And if you jump down to number 7, well, if you humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings, shortcomings are just subdivisions of these character defects. So if you're a liar, basically a subdivision of that would be maybe you lie about your money situation, you lie about some of your accomplishments, and there, things like that. If you're insecure, then maybe your shortcomings are you're insecure about the way you look, and you're always trying to do something better so you can look better, so other people view you differently and all that. And again, I don't think God's going to remove that from you. And the funny part of this is we've got to humbly ask him. We have to get down on our hands and knees and, God, please don't let me lie anymore. Please, no. a lot of this 12-step stuff can get very dramatic. And trust me, if you go to the rooms, and that's why I used to enjoy going to the rooms, you hear some good stuff in there. I mean, you hear some people get really carried away with these steps. And I'm not putting them down, because I know for some people it's helped them tremendously, or for a lot of people, and that's great. Again, I'm not putting it down. I just found it, interesting for the most part. So let's just go over once again. Step number 5, admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Entirely ready to have God remove our defect of character, and humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. All those 3 steps say to me, even when I first got sober and I was looking at these steps and sitting in the step meetings and everything, you got to be aware of what you're doing at all times, and I fall short. There are many times that, my character defect would be, at times I have a temper. I can get angry. And there are times where a situation would come up and I swear that I'm going to handle it properly, and then the person says something that triggers me differently and my mouth can just go off on its own. And then once again I find myself going, damn it, I lost control. And so what did I have to do is I had to go back to that person, ask for forgiveness, tell them I was sorry. And throughout the years, I've been getting better and better, but I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So the thought of God removing, my defective character, meaning that, I can get angry pretty quickly, well, I don't think He's going to do that. Actually, He hasn't. He hasn't. Afterwards, though, my conscience kicks in, and I ask myself, well, that wasn't Christ-like. What a fool I just made out of myself. And then I'm the one that suffers for it because of my actions. Sure, the other person may have, been involved in the wrath of my action or my anger, and they suffered a little, but I'm not that important, so they'll get over it, and many of them did quickly. I had to live with some of the stuff that I said or wrote. So I'm still a work in progress. Just because, I'm 31 years sober doesn't make me perfect. All the steps are meant to be is for us to look at ourselves and then go up to the man up in the heavens, God, and ask for some guidance and for some forgiveness. And you'll see at the end of the steps where AA wants you to go and, preach AA to other people. And again, I'm not big on that. But more importantly, here's the thing. Don't beat yourself up whenever you do these steps. Also, if you're thinking about going to AA and these steps bother you, don't worry about it. Just go to AA anyways. Sit in, listen. Nobody's going to make you do anything there. But in time, you might not do it with a sponsor. You may do the steps on your own. Now, some people listening to the podcast, maybe they went to AA or they're in AA, and they would be saying, well, that's wrong. You're hurting that person. You're going to make that person drink again, blah, blah, blah. Number one, I can't make anybody drink or use. I don't have that kind of power. But what I do have is the ability to be honest with people and say, like I said before, I know people who got sober doing these steps and stayed sober, and I know people who got sober without doing the steps according how AA, suggests you do them with a sponsor or whatever. I've also said I know people who got sober in AA and stayed sober for a while and did these steps and everything was going good, and they chose to pick up a drink or a drug. They were going to NA. We have choices to make. The number one choice I think you need to make if you abuse alcohol or drugs is you don't drink or use no matter what. And no matter what means no matter what. Then find yourself a support group. Maybe it's not AA. Maybe it's a church. Maybe it's a rational recovery or different support groups that are out there. Maybe it's even an online community or a friend, somebody that you trust, you can talk to, and maybe hold you accountable a little. That's another thing that I never focused on here in my podcast. But in a way, early on, AA kind of kept me accountable. There were many times where, I felt like picking up a drink early on in sobriety, and I shared a few things. But I realized I truthfully didn't want to. And also, I wanted to be able to walk into that room and hold my head up high. AA kind of kept me accountable, but there were also times where if I was feeling a little down and out, I could just go into the room, and usually somebody was there that I knew or trust, and I would say, hey, man, can I talk to you for a moment? And just sit down with them, kind of tell them what you're going through. And the funny thing is, they're going to probably share about, they're going through something too, and it's okay. But the most important thing, you just didn't pick up a drink for whatever it is you're going through. And then tomorrow's another day. So don't beat yourself up if you want to go through the steps. You can go online and Google the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you can print them all out and stuff and check them out. Or you can just, listen to my podcasts, go back to the first, second, and third, listen a little, and see if you take anything out of that. Because this channel is really meant for the person who's struggling a little, looking for somebody that's just going to be honest with them. And hopefully that's what you think of what I do here on my channel. You might not agree with everything that I say, but I do try to be as straightforward and truthful to you as I possibly can. I have nothing to gain here. I'm very secure with my sobriety, 31 years. August, I'm sure I'll get 32 years unless the man upstairs wants to bring me home, and that's okay too, because then I won't have to worry about picking up a drink. But don't drink, don't use, no matter what. No matter what means no matter what. No excuses. Get out, enjoy your life. Don't beat yourself up over your past. You don't have to compete with anybody when it comes to sobriety. Do what works best for you, but most importantly, just don't pick up that drink or drug, and you'll be fine. Till the next time, thanks for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you on my next podcast.
Think about your serenity. Be grateful for your sobriety. Staying sober with Papa